Right? Yeah.
That means
Yeah.
she's just playing the part.
Yeah. Her name Monte Oka though.
Hmm. Right?
All right,
Because they
well,
telling you that's how the ancestors give you clues about insert into the historical record. Because
uh-huh.
the name they gave her was the playful one. That
Yep.
means that she's performing a play. That means she's playing a
Wow.
part.
Wow.
But through the evolution of time, we forget what the ancestors meant when they called people by certain names. Like Sitting Bull was called Sitting Bull because they was calling him lazy,
Right? Right.
right? Crazy Horse was called Crazy Horse because his mannerisms and his natural behavior to regular people, he looked like he was a lunatic. But to
Right.
the ones that knew him, they knew he was one of those wise ones that do the Hayoka dance of the lunacy.
Uh-huh.
And he tell the truth amidst the appearance of the insanity in order to get the message across to whoever is able to listen to the language.
Yeah. We
So
gave him we gave him names like
His horse won't let him ride. Because they sit out there and watch him get on his horse, and then when he get on his horse throw him off, right? And they say, oh yeah, we're gonna name him. His horse won't let him ride. Another dude, he riding on his horse, right? And his hair go in the wind. So they said his hair in the wind. That's his name. His hair in the wind. That's how we gave tribal names like that, like black, like different names. We gave names based on attributes of the person, right?
yeah,
So that's what we
so
did.
that's common. We played the dozens, and out of the game called the dozens, you come out of it with a nickname.
wow. Interesting. That's interesting.
So the name is normally the tribal name is the name that defines your character,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So you might be born with a state name, but your nickname is your tribal name.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that.
Yep, they
Your
don't.
nickname is your tribal name. Your birth name is your state name.
Yep. So the real name is your tribal name. The other name is Straw Man.
Right.
Cap.
That's called
Equals
your
cap.
sacred name when you read the pyramid text. It keeps talking about calling you by your sacred name.
They had say
Your
you got two
sacred
names.
name is the
Yeah.
name that embodies the character of who you are the best.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Shout out Indian boy.
You wrap us up, young elder.
Hey, it's a wrap, man. This right here, hey, we the hottest in the game right now. I mean, after this, I mean, Raw got 300 tapes out with nothing but per, we got so many receipts. But after this, man, I think tonight a lot of people got it more on like how this shit is falling down, like how it's like they really got it tonight. And you know how we do it. We came in with the AG the Black Man joint. Then we know how we do it because we gotta, how we gotta do it. So we gotta get up out of here, man. Y'all hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you want to show Raw some love on the Cash App, hey, go follow him on Instagram. Follow him on Facebook at Raw Hayes, right? On Instagram, I mean Facebook. You able to go live on Instagram yet again, Rod?
I'm still in Instagram jail.
Damn. But he go live on Facebook. But hey, but
Yeah.
whenever you ready to come back, just let me know though. We can go live anytime. So we're gonna be
All right.
back, y'all. We're gonna let y'all ponder on this. Hey, bro, last thing. What you think about the pyramid? They said they got found the pyramid down here off the coast of Louisiana. And I remember you used to tell me that there was an
Remember, I
intake.
was telling you over there under where they Saint Bernard Parish was. It was a
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
pyramid.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Now they coming
Yeah.
up. Now it's
Yeah,
popping up.
that ain't no secret. We been knew that was there. The tribes been knew.
Yeah.
And the newcomers that fish the waters know something is strange under the water over. They don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
power that the ancestors is embodied in the
Yeah.
architecture that's under the water.
Yeah. And it's coming back up now. All this shit coming back up to full blast.
Yeah. And then what did the prophecy say? That Atlantis would rise again.
Damn, there you go. There you
And
go,
what
right
else
there.
supposed to rise again?
The city of Moo.
The South.
Yeah, the South.
The South. They said the South will rise again, and Atlantis will rise again, and they both rising simultaneously. And Australia is significant. If you see the page, the cover of it say "Pacts with the Devil." And of course, somebody sent me this book last week or a couple weeks ago, and I was going to do the live and show y'all some of the information in there. But I thought about BDL and I wanted to work with him, and it gave us a perfect opportunity. I wanted to see which directions would the receipts take him once he's seen them. So this is where we're going to be going into the pacts that they made with nefarious forces to oppress us. And sometimes them nefarious forces won't work with them unless they offer up blood. The blood energy is one of the most powerful energies in the universe, and the bloodletting ritual itself is a massive loose release ritual.
Mm.
Right? So it's tapping into the misery and the suffering of the person that they sacrificing or the animal. That's why kosher food is not prepared and butchered the same as our food, regular people.
Facts. Facts.
Same with halal. None of them are butchered the same because in the ancient cultures, we had a certain reverence for other species, and any animal that was willing to allow us to consume it for sustenance, right? That is the highest expression of a food stock animal.
Facts.
Our over here, our original food stock animal was the bison, the elk, the deer, the moose. We didn't eat bovine beef,
Mm-hmm.
right? Bovine beef was introduced. So once they slaughtered the bison, and those were massive rituals. The philosophy in the bloodletting ritual is that for every bison they killed an original one of us. And they even have it written in a bison dialogues in DC, which takes us to politics,
Facts.
right? The politicians commission people to spill blood on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And to deceive us, they send people that look like us, but they ain't us, to ensure that we spill each other blood. There's a whole, I forgot to look it up, Bidel, but there's this cup, and it's a track record of the blood that's spilled for the time they here. If we spill each other blood, that don't go against them.
Okay.
That's why they promote us spilling each other blood. But if one of them spill our blood, they only can spill so much, and then that brings their whole reign to an end. So there's a church, old church in Europe, and this church has what's called the Grail Cup. And the Grail Cup's job is when they spill a certain amount of blood, they have to adjust the level in the cup for the blood that they spill. So they don't use their children in the wars. They use ours.
Right.
Because we spilling each other blood, they not liable for it. We are. So when we come home, we got all of these ancestral spirits of the people that we did stuff with torturing us. They call it post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when we get into these pacts that they made, right? This is just to show y'all that we know this ain't none of this made up. This is what they do.
Mm-hmm.
This is a how-to manual to make pacts with the devil. You want to pick it up from there, Bidel?
Yeah, and we're also going to be showing you how it applies to government and within the factions and their organizations. When you're talking about eugenics, we're going to be going into like things like Planned Parenthood. We're going to be just basically the inception point of the degradation was facilitated by Babylonian culture, which coincides with democracy, and I basically broke that down when I was talking about the secret treaty of Verona and how they created the demo system that basically created the form of patriarchy in the form of capitalism that basically applies to the Babylonian blood magic and under the Draconian constitution
and things of that nature. So right here in this passage right here, it says the pacts with the devil on page 31. It talks about how they use the goat's blood. Now, that's crazy that you showed me this publication, some of this part right here, because in the movie Crow came out over the weekend, and he has a tattoo on his back. He had a goat, and he had the 666 ether around it that basically applies with the devil contract, the blood contract, in order to get his loved one, the woman that he's showing on this illustration right here. So the basis of the movie is all about blood rituals in order to make a pact with certain entities that don't take corporeal form, to the point where he's able to uh, perpetuate this form of a sacrifice. And also, when you look at the color spectrum of red and pink, I told you in the last transmission that red and pink also applies to the number nine. The number nine, which is finality of the demo system that overthrew the restoration of the matriarch. So that's what's going on right now, because, like I was telling y'all before, everything that basically applies to their political system, everything that applies to their system is also acclimated to the timeline. And they put the movies out that basically in a form of symbology to show you what's going on. But you got to understand the symbolism. So also we're going to
Well,
go.
the goat.
Yeah, go
The
ahead.
goat head is the symbol for uterus,
Yep, that's a fact. That's a
right?
fact.
So when they're talking about spilling the goat blood, this take you back to the south to what they call red gravy, sacrificial blood of the missus,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you go back to early colonial America, they didn't have the movie theaters. They had what's called minstrel theaters,
Mm.
right? That's where they did the plays and all of those things they was done through the minstrels.
And then
So
on this,
what stuck out the most in these parts that you've been checking out?
the most that I got out of it, I'm looking for this certain publication that shows you how it basically ties into government, and also within the infrastructure on how they use our biological fluids, which is a form of transgressive art, and they use that as a form of incantations and things of that nature. So I've seen
Right.
that applies to this to that part of the publication. Let me see. And I also, when you go and get into the sex magic aspect of it, you can see why the great majority of the people within the infrastructure of media and celebrities and things of that nature, that's another way to make these blood packs by way of the biological fluids of, because I forgot his name, Aleister Crowley. They used to use it as a
Mm-hmm.
form of elixir, the man and the woman's biological fluids or sexual fluids. Okay, so right here in the publication, it says what is significant about the delusion, what has recurred throughout the human history, is called the blood libel. So that's also applied to liberalism, and we all know that liberalism is also a branch of democracy. So, and it also tells you right here, they say they actually have fundamentalists, lawyers, doctors, TV repairmen, travel agents identified as secret symbols in the yellow pages. So that means that there is a secret language that's going on that we don't know about, that's acclimated to the blood packs. So it also talks about the.
All
Go ahead.
all of those things that you just mentioned in the yellow pages are now digitized with different symbols
Mm-hmm.
and put on the internet, right?
Fact.
And this is how when they surf in the dark web, they know which sites to avoid,
Oh.
right? Because they know that the people who run the site ain't in it. They not the same people,
Mm.
right? But if they got the right symbolism, the person searching the dark web, so oh, here we go, right here. This is the depravity that I need to see. So all of those things goes into understanding the mechanics of blood magic. And once you know the mechanics of it, your spiritual self, your higher self will begin to
Mm.
protect you from it. And this is one of the main reasons why we wanted to show these receipts.
And there's a certain one that I'm looking for that basically I want to show the people that on how this is all connected to government, and it's crazy. So they also talking about right here, it says, while the definition of blood sacrifice is beginning of this chapter used in the study of history, origins, and some writers wishing awaken their audience to the horrors of which humans are capable, have brought in the original definition of human sacrifice to include such as war, abortion, reduction of welfare benefits for children, reduction of educational benefits for children, the loss of afternoon milk for children, slavery, exploitation of natural resources, female discrimination, wife beatings, witch hunt, uh, the LGBT persecution, uh, child abuse, mistreatment of elders, capital punishment. All this stuff is all connected to government, which comes from is basically extracted from the demo system. And then it says right here that the blood sacrifices old as the human race, it appears from the beginning of times, have felt an urge to sacrifice other living things for specific religious purposes, while some researchers has attempted to explain some blood sacrifices as cannibalism. And we all know where cannibalism comes from: Canaanite Babylonian blood magic, which is a form of sacrifice. And it, just like in the movie Crow, they was talking about sacrifice to these entities that don't take corporeal form, but they only can infiltrate certain individuals by way of the blood pact. And that also coincides with the what was that publication? The Bloody Oath of Secrecy, which is basically
Yep.
tied to the Constitution of when the written in Crispus Attucks his blood, it was basically written in that. So how does that basically apply? Like all this stuff that I just read right here, how does that apply to, uh, from your perspective, how do you think that applied to the demo system of democracy?
Well, it's not the system is the application of the underlying sorcery. In
Okay.
this case, they using the democratic system or the demon system
Mm.
to keep us participating in these rituals. Would you happen to have that picture of the DNC in the Chicago River?
Oh, I'm about to get. I gotta send it. I'm about to send it to myself right now. I forgot all
Okay,
about
so why you doing that? They have had dyed the Chicago River red,
it. Hmm.
which is also one of the Mosaic plagues on Egypt. If we remember, we in Egypt, so they got to give us this. Not Egypt, but the civilization that's known as Egypt originated from over here. So that was like a satellite civilization to the old Atlantean civilization. This not ancient Kemet, this ancient Atlantis, but all of the stuff in Kemet came from the Atlanteans,
Facts.
right? So they using these systems, the blood magic, the money magic, and the sex magic, and they get to participate in them. The abortion ritual is a blood right, right? And that's to give women the opportunity to not be responsible for who they have children by. Because if they don't like the baby daddy, they can go get it snatched out, and he won't never know she was pregnant,
Facts.
right? So all of these is different types of rituals. They take the placenta. The placenta is more valuable to them than the aborted fetus because they finna use all kind of magic on it. They finna put it in the cosmetics. They finna put it in food colorings and all kind of stuff and call it natural ingredients. They are natural,
Right.
but all of this is the system. The maintenance of the system is to compel as many people as possible to participate in the systemic bloodletting rituals, the blood rites.
Hold on. I'm about to drag it over here.
So when they turned, they said that DNC Chicago River Red to celebrate abortion. Even the
That was
women that got abortion don't celebrate it.
right.
That's what people are not paying attention to. The women who for whatever reason, some of them for they can't afford to take care of a child, they got to have an abortion. Some of them is they too young to have a child, they have an abortion. All of the women that have abortions, some of them are tormented by that,
Mm-hmm.
which is also part of their blood rituals to cause these issues. This was only a week ago, less than a week ago.
Facts. So everything right now, like according to their timeline, it's like it's divine, divination is taking place. So, what I'm saying, that we definitely not making this up because they put everything in these publications. And I'm looking for a certain publication, how it shows you about how they talking about it in the education system as well.
That might be under the part where they're talking about the uses of blood magic in the church.
Oh yeah, and okay, I think I know what you're talking about. All right, I think it's this right here. It talks about the sacrifices in the early Hebrew days in the New
Yeah.
Testament.
So
Bloodshed.
this a lot of Christians are unwitting dupes, is what they call them. An unwitting dupe is somebody who don't have a clue that they tricked into something that they've been tricked into, and they're so dedicated to it that they will defend it, never knowing what they defending.
Right.
Right. Can you blow that up some more? I want people to see this part because we finna go into this part about the religious dogma of
Okay.
the. Okay, let's go up to the top. So here we go.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to say blood has played a significant part in the drama of human history. In the Old Testament, there are numerous references to the blood sacrifices practiced by the early Hebrews. When the references of the New Testament are included, there are 375 references to blood in the entire Bible. Right? Now, the numbers is significant.
Mm-hmm.
The references to blood in the Bible are both complex and contradictory. Much of this can be resolved by employing simple ideas such as who is speaking when the passage was written, how was it used, who is the object of the discussion, and what is the relationship between parties involved.
Mm.
Let's scroll down.
All right.
I'm trying to find where we was at so I can pick up.
Oh, okay. I'll scroll down too far. Yeah, after the 375 references.
Right. Then it said
The parties involved, and
re-
sometimes.
sometimes the blood sacrifice is of a supreme good, and at other times is of a supreme evil. Frequently, it is used metaphorically, as in the case of the Eucharist, and
Mm-hmm.
the interpretation depends on whether the blood sacrifice and blood were considered good or evil, and for whom. Right?
Mm.
For the sake of exercise, compare the four following passages from the Bible. So then he give us four different biblical references about blood being used in the Bible for comparative analysis on how the blood is being used, what is being used for, what's the goal, who they doing it for, all that stuff in the Bible would tell you,
Mm.
right? So biblically, the ones who want the most blood is Yahweh,
Yep. So that basically applies to
right?
the Tetragrammaton as well. And I forgot the
Mm-hmm.
upload. They use the sigil system of the Tetragrammaton, and they use it in the form of incantation, and they entrap the energy around of a circle when they do these blood packs.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to Revelations, and they
The
overcame.
Tetragrammaton, which is the what they call the ineffable name, the name that you should never utter. That's why they don't put no vowels in it, right? But it's Yahweh, right? But Yahweh in Sumer is Enlil,
Facts.
right? He got a son named Baal Hadad. That's the one they keep calling Lord. Baal is being translated as Lord. And they got
Mm-hmm.
you thinking this is all one person in order because you ain't supposed to know.
Right.
It's not one person. Right. So in the Hebrew, you got El sometimes used for God, you got Elo used for God, you got Elohim, right? Then you got for Lord, you got Baal,
Mm-hmm.
Adonai, and there's a couple more of them. But the whole thing is when they translate it into English, and if you don't go back to the ancient language, you will never know none of this. You will think that it's one continuous story about one God that's doing all of this stuff to fight evil, and he killing everybody.
Facts. It just
He
tells
the
you right
one
here.
doing all of the, he the one doing all the killing. The
Mm-hmm.
devil, who the devil killed? God told Joshua to kill off the whole village. He told Moses the same thing. He sent
Facts.
Melchizedek to go and help Abraham murder nations. Literally, that's what it say,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we looking at this, who's doing all the bloodletting? And speaking of Yahweh, the famous blood sacrifice story, with which most of us are familiar, is the Abraham and Isaac. As we
Facts.
are told, Abraham was ordered by
Yahweh.
ineffable name to kill his son Isaac. Abraham is about to do this in obedience to his God Yahweh. When the holy go to the next one.
All right. Well,
Okay,
I
so
can.
we
Yeah, I don't
probably don't
think it.
have them in direct order.
That basically just shows people you like a lot of people don't understand the fact that the church and the state is not separate because they all connected by way of canon laws. So government and religious text basically applies together for those who don't understand that whole, synopsis of what he just read. Because that's why the blood has to be spilled by way of monotheistic religion that's acclimated to government. It all works in tandem. So it also talks about, let me see. There was one part of the book that I was reading that I found very significant, and it was, I think this is the other part right here. Yeah, I'll blow it up for you because it's a continuation of talking about how Abraham and Yahweh, he was ordered by God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is the next page. One tells them not to. It says, instead of a covenant is made between Abraham and Yahweh, and the new epic of history begins. In this case, the blood sacrifice served at least two purposes. One, to test Abraham and to symbolize the beginning of a new epic in Hebrew history. The other religious scholars have believed that Abraham Isaac's story simply served as a warning by God to his people not to harm others and to stop practicing the then prevalent pagan ritual of child sacrifice. Now that's the irony because this the same God tell you that if your child disobedient, you should stone him to death,
facts.
right? And this the same God that told them to kill the women, the children, the livestock, and don't leave nothing in the land alive. And then they brought back the best of the flock, and he said, "I ain't want none of that shit.
Right.
I wanted you to kill it all.
Yep.
Now I gotta punish you because you was disobedient." And they thought they was doing they righteous God a righteous service. Later,
Mm-hmm.
we will see how the blood sacrifice is being used to initiate a new period of history. In fact, many social historians and philosophers believe that war served the same purpose.
Mm.
Mm, mm, mm. It's right there. It said
Exactly.
with the definition of the blood sacrifice at the beginning of this chapter has been used in the study of its history and origin. Some writers wishing to awaken their audience to the horrors of which humans are capable have broadcasted the original definition of human sacrifice to include such themes as war, abortion, reduction of welfare benefits for children, reduction of educational benefits for children, the loss of afternoon milk for children, slavery, the exploitation of natural resources, female discrimination, wife beatings, the witch hunt, homosexual persecution, child abuse, the mistreatment of elders, and capital punishment. We will discuss the use and misuse of the meaning of blood sacrifice later on in the chapter. So you see here, he didn't tie it into the school system, to the milk, which takes us back to the video I did with Empress, where we talked about the milk of the mother, right? This is why they keep giving us cow's milk. It's a sacrifice. Do we supposed to use the substance of the cow, but we're not supposed to consume the cow. The milk is supposed to be a prosperity ritual for Lakshmi, right? And the drinking of the milk is the consuming of the blessings of Lakshmi. But when they add other blood sacrifices, it's telling Lakshmi that you a heathen, you a terror, you wicked, you putting blood with the milk to contaminate the children. Now you understand how they tricking us.
So that means that everything in our
Blood
everyday
sacrifice. Yeah, it say the blood sacrifices owes the human race. It appears that from the beginning, we already read that, didn't we?
Yeah, we already read it. Yeah. Everything in our life, you know what I'm saying? We don't even know it's a sacrifice. That's crazy. And you know, even the milk, it's got 75,000 somatic cells. So you really just drinking pus and blood at the same time. So let me see. We're going to get into, where's it at? There was a significant part when it was talking about Kronos that I was tapped into. Yeah, here we go. Now, this I found this very interesting. It's talking about Uranus, which is Orion star constellation, which is another title for heaven. And the Gaia focuses on the children of Earth being trapped by the sexual embrace of the sky and Earth. To free her children, Gaia makes a sickle and gives to Kronos her son. Kronos not the same as Kronos, although frequently interchanged with Father Time. Castrates his father, putting an end to the union of the sky and earth. Uranus' blood falls to the earth, and then these drops of blood, the 12 titans and the titaness, are created. The blood sacrifice put an end to the era of Uranus, who kept his children prisoners of earth. On the other hand, Kronos ate his children. So that means that, like, in order to basically encapsulate us inside this fermented dome and to keep this perpetual cycle going on under the sleep spell of Kingu and the sleep spell of Leviathan, we're basically in a prison planet, and it's all being based upon like sacrifice. So the more that they basically deviate from the ideology of sacrifice, because we know that their time is up, because we at the end of the purification period of their system. So does that mean that by way of their factions of government, when they stop having the chances to do all these blood rituals and things of that nature, will that basically dematerialize the grid system or the firmament? Would that basically make heaven connect with earth again? Or is that what that basically implying?
Okay, so this is the operational instructions for the application of the spell of Kingu. This is the Greek description of them applying Kingu to trap us in the system, but we're not trapped by external forces. We in a stupor. We can't see and that with the eyes of God. We can only see with the eyes of man, because that's the purpose of this ritual, right? And the reason why they say Kronos eat his children is because he outlives them, because he's an eternal. But his children have to go through, they live eternity through reincarnation cycles. So if Kronos represents time, time is the, as Father Time is Kronos. But we all know that the older version is Mother Time, which is Kalima. Right? So all these things happen, and we become oblivious to it, and they keep it in print so that they can share it to each other, to for each other to know, but we ain't supposed to know.
Facts.
That's why they say if you want to hide something from a ninja, put it in the book.
Yep.
Because we was traditionally oral disseminators of knowledge. We didn't do this with the secret squirrel, write it down and pass the note under the table, which became volumes and volumes. So they
Hold on, Ryan. You can't hear you.
once they put them in the back on.
Yeah, hold on for a second. Trying to wait till it catch up a little bit. All right.
Right. So once they start putting it in book form, then they can control the narrative of what you should study if you're a good person, and what you shouldn't study if you're a bad person. But when you get to the higher realms, there is no good people or bad people. They just people.
Mm.
When you get to the higher realms, there is no light-skinned people, dark-skinned people. They just people. Because they're all represented by a light body. When
Yep.
you're in a light body, you don't have a race. You don't have an ethnicity. You have to take on physical form. And normally the form you take on is the prevailing genetics, if you are Etherian, of the surrounding culture. So if you want other cultures to be able to tap into, they call it tying into the vine, then they have to be also on the same geography as what we call the main line, the main bloodline. And this is your Mississippians, that all of these other tribes are tied in. They call it twigging. And then they call it the one drop of blood doctrine, right? And where do you go to get the one drop of blood? You go to God's crucible. It's another epithet for America. Once you in God's crucible, now you submerge in what's called the great melding pot.
Yep.
Right? Once you in the great melding pot, the goal is catharsis. Right? So the most wicked people had to do the most wicked stuff to the most righteous people, because the most righteous people can take it better than everybody else.
So
So when
that's
they put,
so that's mainly
yeah,
why. Go ahead. My bad.
yeah, so this is why you seeing being played out in front of us. They're playing it out in front of us to say, see, I told them, they just didn't speak the language.
So that's mainly why the great majority, because a lot of people be like, well, why are we so, discriminated against? Because it's all, according to their blood contracts that they have. So where is this at? Okay.
You see this? The idea of an American vote is not much different from other ideas about a chosen people.
Yeah, I see it.
Chosen people, including the Nazis, always have the right to perform blood sacrifices. Think about that for a minute. Now, the people that send our children to war don't send their children to war.
Right.
Why they don't send their children and why they send ours? See, it's whose hands is the blood on, and how can they use a cat's paw? They always using somebody else to do the dirt for them, so you won't never know who it is doing the dirt. This how all of their isms, racism, sexism, casteism. This is why all of these isms work. They work on they manipulate your ignorance to their advantage, and then they compel you to defend your ignorance with pride.
They some dirty mofos, ain't they? And then we're gonna
Mm-hmm. Look, it said the best of the reconciliation is always a process of myth making and fictionalizing. those sacrificed in this way, those sacrificed in this way are always less, inferior, non-human, not like us. This is very similar to Reagan's notion of the evil empire, the Russian communists looting and raping American business. When America was financing Russia when it was communist the whole time. Most people don't know that.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Wow.
Go back, you can pull up an almanac from any time before the wall fell. And the number one economic aid to the communist Russia was the United States.
Mm.
They was giving them billions of dollars a year. So let's go into the practice of blood sacrifice. Blow this up so that people could see it.
All right.
It's the extent to which the blood sacrifice for practice is quite large. In fact, the types of people and the details of the various sacrifice would require volumes. Some examples from different parts of the world, then it goes into Abraham kills Isaac to create a new orientation for the Hebrews in Greek mythology. Agamemnon kills his daughter, Iphigenia, so the winds can carry the Greek ships to rescue Helen and Troy. The idol god Molech cult sacrificed children by fire. The Germans had a covenant with their gods, which demanded not only animal and human sacrifice, but supported sacrifices for victories over their enemies and the sacrifice for funerals. So they just used the blood ritual to capitalize on us at every turn because we don't know, we not protecting ourselves spiritually by selectively opting out of as many other rituals as we can, and we begin to wake up.
That basically
Then the power and the hold that the blood magic have starts to dissipate. But you got to be able to identify whether it's in the church, the mosque, or whether it's on Wall Street, or whether it's in DC, or whether it's in Hollywood. And what you see a lot of celebrities doing is actually telling on them. When you see them celebrities doing, they actually telling on the people that's putting them up to it. This right here, they literally telling you the people running Hollywood, this is what they into. But they dress it up in costume form to make it more palatable because most people don't believe it's going on.
Exactly. And they call that, it's kind of like ceremonial magic. Call it the Govey. That was part of I was looking for the part of the publication that talks about that. But we're going to go back up here.
That's also the prefix to government too.
So this cult of Moloch, does this also apply to, because I sent you this right here, and it talks about how the MIT explains why laws are written in an incomprehensible style, just as magic spells use special rhymes and archaic terms and signal the power, and convoluted language legalese acts to convey a sense of authority they include. Let me see. So, like I said, so is that right? So, whether how they write these laws and governments and how it applies to, like, politics and things of that nature. So, whether they write it in pen or paper, or whether they signing these contracts and signing over these bills or whatever, it's still an incantation because it's still Babylonian blood magic, correct? Because I said, like, whatever, you frozen.
You breaking up a little bit, D-Bap.
Okay, hold on. Let me get some of this stuff out the way. All right, can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, so does that basically apply to everything as far as, like, whether you writing out a contract, you signing over your nature, whether if they signing certain laws and government, it's still a form of a blood sacrifice because they still writing it in blood, whether if they writing it in pen, pencil, or marker or whatever. Because what was you basically implying to that? as far as it still being a blood magic incantation.
Okay, now look, when you go back, when you go and look at your signed and sealed documents, the
Mm-hmm.
ones that don't have what's called an embossed seal is normally a red seal.
Mm-hmm.
But it's red ink, it's not actual blood.
Right.
Because the foundational document is the secondary constitution written in the blood of Crispus Attucks that's kept in the George Washington Masonic Memorial,
Right.
right? So all they have to do now to maintenance it is to simulate it. And they simulate it by red ink and by a dead language.
Mm-hmm.
The dead language is the Latin that they use in order to write the legalese. And the legalese is written in the form where commoners don't know what you're talking about. But because the colloquial language is similar, because a lot of Latin went into the founding of English, a lot of ancient languages, Sanskrit, Latin, Greek, ancient Kemetic languages all go into making up the English language. So now to maintenance the spell, all they have to do is do so many seals in red ink.
Mm-hmm.
Almost anything come from the Supreme Court gonna have a red ink seal stamp,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's because that's the maintenance of the foundational document. But 2019, July the 4th, the contract ended,
Mm.
right? So now we not in the government. This right here, see what it said at the top?
Yep. The historical material frozen in time. This website is no longer updated, and links to external websites and some internal pages may not work. Executive orders. So it's basically freezing the de facto corporation, basically.
It's dead.
Yeah. Right.
It's now a defunct corporation.
Mm-hmm.
But the stage show got to play out until enough of the originals wake up to the fact that the stage show that's being played. This is why they blatantly put multiple actors in skin masks in front of people. They got the tall Donald Trump, the short dumpy Donald Trump, the medium sized Donald Trump. You got 17 different Bidens. You got 3 or 4 different Kamalas. One of them a man,
Right.
right? And they doing it so obvious that we supposed to look at it now as it's a joke.
Right.
They pranking me, right? We on Ashton Kutcher punking us right now,
Right.
right? And
Gregory said it's
so
two
when
different.
the only reason why the executive orders page of the government is not updated anymore because there's no more presidents to issue a true executive order. That's done.
Mm-hmm.
We we in the very ends of reconstruction of tribal law on the land, restoring back the ancient ways in a modern time. It had to be adjusted, and it took an adjustment period for people to understand what happened, so that they could see all that gloom and doom, them scare tactics. That's just to keep the loose in the air,
Mm.
and the loose serves as almost like a narcotic effect. This is why if you run up on a flock of sheep, they can't even run. If you
Mm.
run on them at them face on, you got to come from behind them. If you
Mm.
come at them face on while they facing you, they froze. They don't know what to do because the
Mm.
predators always attack them from the rear, right? But if you come up them at a side angle or back of them, they know to run,
Mm.
right? But if you come directly at them, they froze. They got a species of goat that literally freeze and turn stiff and fall over like he did when you run up on him.
Yeah, it's got it.
Right, right. So what they showing us here is that the United States government is truly gone,
Mm-hmm.
and that now the people need to wake up because the original people then reclaimed everything. Now we just trying to get the tribes to remember who the F they are so that they can wake up from the slumber
Mm-hmm. So
because
how
that's Freudian slip.
So how can we actually do that? And when you have so many people within the infrastructure of democracy still trying to fight for reparations. So, because like I said, reparations is the carrot on the stick. Like, because when you participate in fraud, you can't claim injury to the system, right? So it's really going to
Yep.
put you under a jurisdiction again if you conform to those appellation titles of African American and Black. That ties you right back to the 14th Amendment. So how, as a collective, can we help people deviate from those ideologies, and let them know that, like, we didn't come, we've been here the whole time. And it's a lot of people who don't understand that, and how that also applies to uh, ecclesiastical law and their factions of religion.
Well, one thing, by exposing what's being done to us, helps us to mentally defend from it. And whatever level we realize it at, we can explain to people on the same level what we seeing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even discuss reparations, because under no circum, if you start giving reparations, then you're just gonna be money shuffling all over the world, going back to the end of time.
Right.
Right? Because at some point outside of America, everybody had everybody slaves. This has
Mm-hmm.
always been the land of the free, the home of the brave, until 1492.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's the land of the captive, and the captive is called the slave
Mm.
since 1492. We've been in
Fact.
a perpetual state of warlock. All
Mm.
Big Mama banks was closed. Well, shut their system down. Now her banks is opening up.
Mm.
Right?
So what about restitution?
It's the same thing. They
Mm.
can't restitute. They can't. The only thing they can do is give us what's ours, and then they don't got nothing.
Exactly.
If they give us what's ours, they don't got nothing. So then, what we gonna get from them?
Mm.
So you got two options. You can fight for reparations. That means fight for what you want, or you can fight what's rightfully yours, which is gonna surpass reparations by millions
Facts.
per individual. That is
Mm-hmm.
right. So we don't know. We just sit here and we follow the system, but the system ain't going nowhere but down.
Facts.
That's why they named all of the schools, because school is Sheol and Sheol is hell.
Yep.
Right? And now they teach your children how to act like demons.
Yep. Yep. So that so I want to get right back in the groove of the publication. Let me see, because we didn't get into this right here. Because we was going into the blood pacts. Yeah, the practice of the blood sacrifice.
I think did we go over this already?
Yeah, we already went through that. And then you got the well documentation.
Okay, you see where it say the Phoenicians of Carthage?
Yeah, I see it.
Do you know where Carthage is?
Uh that's like out there like
It's an old
translate.
Egyptian city.
Okay.
Phoenician is a reference to, that's one of the names before they was called Etruscans. They were called Phoenicians, and they was
Facts.
the seafarers, right? And they was the ones who shopped this blood rituals around the world on the high seas using the admiralty and maritime jurisdiction. And this is why the Scottish Rite color is red.
Mm, that's a good connection right there.
One of the reasons.
That's
The
crazy.
other reason is because the Scottish Rite Freemasons usurped it from the daughters of Isis and
Mm-hmm.
replaced the nuns, right? They changed the dress of the nuns. The nuns used to wear white, and
Yep.
Big Mama only one wore the black. That's why they called her the Black Madonna,
Facts.
right? The symbol was in Kemet is called the primordial nun, Nun, and that's why they spell nun N-U-N instead of N-O-N-E.
Mm. Mm.
It's trickery in the first degree.
Facts. Nothing but semantics and technology at its finest. So let me see. Also found this kind of interesting too at the bottom right here. It's talking about during the great Viking age of Scandinavia, the legend has it that humans were sacrificed to Odin in order to defend their universe against chaos. They will also assimilate the wisdom of their victims by drinking their blood. Of course, we are all familiar with the Aztecs, the Mayans, and their preoccupation with human sacrifice. So, I think that one guy, he had the guy who killed Sonya Massey, he had a Scandinavian tattoo on him, didn't he? And he had all types of, I forgot what type of sigil he had on him, but I know it basically coincides with like Nordic mythology where they propagate Odin.
Yeah, but a lot of those things is applied to those doctrines that wasn't originally there. You gotta remember, they didn't slid blood sacrifice into every religion,
Facts.
right? Because during the time of Muhammad, they didn't believe in blood sacrifice, but now they got some kind of symbolic ritual of blood sacrifice in their religion.
Facts.
The same with the church, same with the Hebrews is the ones who came out of Babylon, or they call it the Babylonian captivity, with the money magics, the sex magic, and the blood magic. And they the ones been pushing it. But they ain't pale faced Khazarians and they ain't Spanish Sephardis.
Yep. That's what I
They
mean.
the same ones that they call Carthaginians, Etruscans, and Moors.
Mm. The Blackamoor,
Same
right?
people. Yep. The
See,
Tawny Moor was just the light skinned ones.
that's one people that they have a hard time trying to delineate a Blackamoor from an indigenous American.
We
That's
know the difference because they don't behave like us. They don't even think along the same lines. Like if you just walk up to the average brother and say, "Hey man, how much would you sell me your mama for?" He can be like, "What?" But if you walk up to one of them and you catch them when they ain't really paying attention, and you say, "Man, how much did you sell me your mama for? Man, give me $5,000. You can take that bitch." Them ain't the same people.
right, right,
Them not the
right.
same people,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's a
They'll sell their children. This is how you even end up with a slave system, a system of barter and trade for human life. For
mm,
them to be your servants so you can be lazy as you want to be if you got enough money.
mm,
And this is why this is so hard to recover for us because we being we being systematically taught to be lazy when it comes to self-development and be ambitious when it comes to the development of others.
mm-hmm.
We will help everybody else but ourselves. And if you sit back and you think about that, right? We'll help everybody else but ourselves. What position are you in to be helping somebody if you ain't helped yourself first?
Facts.
Right? I always tell people from when I was locked up to now, when they come to me for advice on starting a business, I say you gotta be selfish enough to get where you want to be so that you can help the people you want to help. You have to cut everybody off until you get where you need to be so that you can help the most people if you want to really help. Because
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you start developing your skill sets and applying them to your life, all kind of people gonna come. You're gonna have people coming to tear you down. You're gonna have people coming to build you up. You're gonna have some people that came to help you with one part of the problem, but it's a relay race for them. They gonna pass you off to somebody gonna help you to another part of the problem,
Mm.
right? But if we don't do the self development, we won't never see none of that. We'll just be wondering why we struggle. We end up like MC Hammer. Look, MC Hammer made $40 million in a year.
mm.
2 years later, he was broke, but he didn't squander one penny. He helped everybody he could. He put everybody he knew on payroll. The millions gonna eventually begin to fizzle away.
Yep.
If he would have took the time and say, hold up, what can I do to make this 40 grow? And then how much can I help people with annually that'll allow the 40 to continue to grow? That's a different philosophy. He was so busy trying to take everybody out the hood, it brought him right back to the hood.
That's how it happens. That's how it happens. When you don't teach your people how to fish for themselves. Let me see. We're also going to get into, says one socio-political theory. I don't know.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
This is the one. This is the
Okay.
one right here. It's a one psychoanalytic theory holds that the blood sacrifice was a simple projection of human. Wait a minute, I didn't think. For example, one political socio theory posits that the power to perform the blood sacrifice stabilizes the community as well as assuming the status quo of the prevailing power structure. That's how the Crispus Attucks George Washington conjure work.
Mm,
They say, look what it say. Sacrifice stabilize the community. How you gonna stabilize a community that's at war with a blood sacrifice?
right. That
The
don't make sense.
sacrifice is gonna have to serve some type of narcotic effect on the psyche, right? So if you ask if you ask the mystics, what's the thing that'll make the angel flee from you the quickest? They gonna all tell you the same thing: adrenaline rush, fear.
Mm-hmm.
The adrenaline rush of fear is not the same as the adrenaline rush of a victory. Because you have what's called cofactors. In victory, you get a massive dopamine release and a massive beta endorphin. Whereas in fear, you get a massive cortisol release and a restriction in dopamine release. So the scent pheromonically is different. The pheromone scent or the subconscious scent is not the same. So they'll know the difference between the fear response and the joy response by how they perceive the scent of the blood. If the dopamine is not high enough and the cortisol is too high, they know that's fear. It's like spraying them with mace.
Mm,
So they use that same science to put the earthborn to sleep with blood sacrifice. It's a um, stabilizes the community as well as assuring the status quo. When do the status quo change? Right? And the prevailing power structure. So the prevailing power structure is utilizing the sacrifice of the blood ritual to stabilize the society by putting people into a stupor with the blood rites.
mm.
This is why they gotta have communion on the first Sunday every month. That's paying they dues to the archive.
That's the Eucharist ceremony, correct?
Yep.
And let me see if it'll pull up.
Maybe is this like
Hold on. Okay. Let me see. I got that video up, and I wanted to because it's talking to where the home of the Ukrainian mafia is at, right, and over in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to show you that how they lit up the sky red and how it ties into these blood pacts. Because it's at the bottom right here talking about how the Jews were a little ahead of the Christians and outlaw aspects of blood sacrifice to replace circumcisions and the prohibition. Let me see something. Let me see. Uh, Bazaars. All right. Hopefully it'll let me pull it up. All right.
Because I'm looking and I'm learning a lot of places are calling a state of emergency, and this is in Ukraine. If this is supposed to be fireworks, why are they all like coming down like that? It's literally like stars falling out of the sky. Remember, they say in the end time these things are going to be coming out of the sky. And then I showed you the other day how Russian skies were super red from this severe thunderstorm that passed, and they're still going up. These flares or whatever they are still going up. Like, what is going on? And I seen this in Florida the other day when I was traveling south in the 75. Y'all see that? Y'all see that X or that cross that the sun is projecting? It's like, again, there's something behind it. What is going on? In the atmosphere.
Mm. Why the owl?
What's the
Why you say
symbol for Molech? What's the symbol of
that?
Molech?
They use a like a bull entity too. It seems like they have different ones according
That was
to.
the ancient one. In modern times in Bohemian Grove, they use a giant owl.
Yeah, that is a fact. Yeah, that's facts. I forgot all about that. I forgot all
See,
about
they
that one.
putting the blood on the owl. They use sacrificing the blood in front of the owl because it's the subjugation of wisdom.
Mm, mm. Now you see why Kendrick said they ain't like us when he's talking about Drake. He got that Bohemian owl as his sigil for his record
It's
label.
the owl ain't the problem. It's the blood that they dash the owl with.
Right.
You see, the people that's doing that know what they doing. The dashing our blood on the owl is their way to subjugate the wisdom of the wise ones.
Mm,
Because wisdom is justified of her children. Her children are going to come and redeem the great mother every time. So how do you keep them from waking up? You use blood magic. And you take all of the symbols, like the goat head that was the symbol of the uterus, the owl, which was a symbol for wisdom, and you do blood rituals at them, and people are going to think you sacrificing the blood to them, but you're not.
mm-hmm.
Right? When Taurus was ruling, that's when they was dashing the blood on the old cow deity. That's
Mm-hmm.
the desecration of Hathor.
Mm.
Remember, they got mad at the so-called Israelites that left Egypt for creating a statue, a golden statue to who? The goddess Hathor, right? And then they tore it up, melted it all down, and they killed all the people that was involved. Right?
Mm.
The cow goddess Hathor, Het Heru is her proper name. She had nothing to do with them sacrificing them people that built her a recognition symbol. Right? But that was showing the loyalty to the earthborn. Because
Mm.
the Taurus is the bull, is the symbol for the earth energy in the zodiac wheel. Just like Pisces is water, right?
Mm-hmm.
Scorpio is ice, Cancer is steam. So you
Mm.
got different forms of the elements represented by the different animals that they use to represent the element. And so if they desecrate it and people seeing them doing it, but they don't know what they doing, the assumption is that they sacrificing to the owl that they call in Molech in Bohemian Grove,
Right.
right? But they really desecrating wisdom, right? The Pope came out when the contract was about up, the Pope came out and said Jesus failed, Christ failed, the devil won. And I was like, no, the devil ain't win. It's just that you don't know that Jesus ain't no man, or you don't want people to know because he know. The Pope
Right.
know that the Greek wasn't, the New Testament was written in Greek. It wasn't written in Hebrew. So his name wasn't Yahshua, ever. But in Greek, it's Isis.
Mm-hmm.
In Kemetic, it's Isis, the heir, the rightful heir to the sacerdotal seat of the earth. And this has got to be enforced by the first daughter heir. Her daughter, Heru, is the feminine heir. Heru, Horus, is the masculine heir. It's the holy drama. It's just a blueprint to how to restore everything back to the beginning and go into a golden age upon the awakening of the rightful ones, what we call the ancient ones,
Mm.
right? And then they let entropy run its course because they always start by putting everybody in prosperity. Now everybody is prosperous. Let's see what y'all do with it from here. And this is a cycle. This just so happened to be the chapter of misery, where the ones who can take the most suffering take the bottom position until it's time for the last to be made first again.
Mm.
Right? Then you flip the ones who in the front that need the catharsis, right? As they assimilate they one drop of blood. They getting it all off their chest. But what most of us don't know is we are paying for what happens on the other side of the world that didn't have nothing to do with us.
Right.
That's called building up a pre-karma. So we was like, bring it on. We strong enough to take it. And most people believe that none of the stuff that's been happening over the last 500 years, that we had no choice but to be born into it.
Mm.
But they don't understand before you come into this physical body what takes place, and they don't understand when you leave. And I'm gonna tell you how I know, because people keep trying to convince other people that this is a reincarnation trap. Reincarnation is not the trap; it's the passport to eternal life.
Mm.
We eternal beings. We ain't gonna die. But would you rather want to live one long ass life for 10,000 years, or in that 10,000 years live 10,000 lifetimes?
Mm.
This is why they stripped the telomeres back in order for create an effect in the body called aging.
Mm.
Right? All this is done in the laboratory. But outside of your physical body, don't none of this stuff matter to you. You don't care about none of this. But the cohesion with the physical body generates an alternate self called the ego. The ego is built upon by the society by telling you who you is, by everybody giving you an opinion about who you are. And the more other people's opinion that you believe that's not your own about yourself, that is the building blocks of your ego. The
Mm.
purification of the ego, this is what they call enlightenment. The purification of the ego is saying, okay, let me look and examine my ego. This is the self that I present to the world. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be that. So scratch that off. They lied about me. They lied about me. I don't believe in that. I don't do that. That's outside of my framework. I don't operate like that. Then when you get done, you be like, damn. And they call that shadow work.
Mm.
The purification of the ego is,
Mm.
the skies is going to be bloody red. Like you seen in the Ukraine, that's a
Mm-hmm.
simulation.
So that was basically like a ritual that is going to, because the perception of art imitates reality.
Predictive programming.
Yeah, so they got to perpetuate that ideology in order to for it to materialize, basically, because they got to get.
Right. So
Okay.
let's just say Nibiru parked out there by the sun somewhere, and we can't see it, but they need okay from enough of us to go ahead and proceed in their orbit. Because you know they can drive Nibiru like you can drive a car.
Facts.
So they changed the orbit so that it don't make the crust flip.
Mm.
Now the instead of the crust flip, you go back to January. Was it this last past January the 6th? I think it was 2023. The core of the Earth stopped for I think 3 days, and then it started going. It started back up in the opposite direction. That's so
Mm.
that the crust didn't flip, but the core flipped, right? Because Nibiru not close enough to make the crust flip. That's why they got all them historical disasters,
Mm.
ancient tidal waves and stuff, because it took them a couple of travels. They only come around every 3,600 years. So it took them a couple of travels around the system in order to adjust the orbit accurately,
So do
right?
you so you think that's going to perpetuate sometime in between? So is this what Agenda 2030 is basically all about? Because I know all throughout Bible's teachings, he was talking about how the firmament is going to dematerialize in between the years of 2030 and 2043.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
will
what
that
he's talking about is the Pleiadian light lock. We call it the Van Allen belt,
okay.
right? But we're gonna have a different atmosphere, and the baby's gonna be born smarter, and they will have the opportunity to stop growing when they feel like it.
Mm.
You'll be able to control your all of your autonomic system, the stuff that happens automatic in the body. You will have conscious control over it, like growth.
Mm.
You know, do you want to be 6'2" or do you want to be 7'2"? You
Mm.
know, and we will be then raised enough wise ones to know how to raise the ones that have that a level of self control. You give some of these people control of their higher self right now, and they're gonna act like a drug addict and ruin themselves.
Why you say that? Why?
It's
Because
it's
too much power for you know.
it's a whole lot of power and it's a whole lot of euphoria called bliss at the same time.
Okay.
And instead of building ourselves up to be able to experience it, we gonna dive into it full throttle like a crackhead. Hit that pipe, baby. Beat me up, Scotty. This is why all of these everything in the 3D realm, time was required in order to create process.
Right.
Process can't be negated. Everything had to be done by a process. You can't just say she pregnant today and in the morning she go have a baby. No,
Right.
the baby got to develop in the womb, and that is the concept of the principle of time. You are growing up as an infant to become an adult, but what kind of adult do you want to be? You came in knowing, but somewhere in the first 7 years, somebody else told you the kind of adult you need to be.
That's crazy. Hey, what's your cash app, by the way? So I can put you
Uh,
in.
$ capital S, lowercase IK, capital A, lowercase PE. It's SikApe.
Okay. All right, I got that at the bottom. So if y'all will, donate to the elder, man, because he be dropping the knowledge, man. He been doing this for years. And, I admire him. And this is, I want my knowledge level to be at his level by the time I get to his age. So
Shit, you ain't that far behind already.
I ain't there yet, man. Is it,
I probably just I probably just read a couple books more than you. That's it.
I'll be looking at y'all, man. I'll be like, man, I need to step it up. But I'm, at least I got, something to follow. We're gonna get
Mhm.
some more questions, by the way. Uh, okay.
So this
Oh,
Red Dawn right here, this was a movie came out in the 80s,
yeah,
and
hey, Rick,
it was about a Russian invasion that had took over America, and the only ones fighting back was these teenagers, and they named themselves Wolverines.
mm.
Wolverine is the Michigan state animal.
Hey, you know what's crazy? Guess what? They just came out with a movie with Wolverine because I told you by way of the doctrine of signatures, they use certain movies that's according to the timeline that we own right now. They just had the Deadpool, which is probably
Wolverine and Deadpool.
yep, Wolverine Deadpool. So like it's not a coincidence. All these alignments is like lining up. The receipts is receipting. I didn't watch that movie either, by the way. So I couldn't tell you what the movie was about. Um
But yeah, the Red Dawn, because yeah, that basically coincides with the fact that you got China and Iran, uh, you got that whole faction of when they talking about the World
The
Economic Forum.
BRICS nations.
Yeah, they was talking about how they, the manipulation of the EMPs and stuff like that. So I don't know. Did the EMP happen? Did they shut down the grid when they infiltrated? And I ain't never seen the old one. I only seen the latest one they had that came out in the early 2000s.
Which
So
one?
in Red Dawn, did the grid go down in this one when they
Oh, and
invaded?
that one it wasn't no grid to go down for the time frame of the movie. It wasn't no internet back then.
Okay, okay,
Internet the internet was a newborn baby.
okay. All right.
That's a good movie though, but the Wolverine colors is Michigan State colors.
So what is
And
that?
okay, remember Red Dawn, they call themselves the Wolverines.
Mm-hmm.
Wolverine is the Wolverine from the X-Men colors is blue and yellow, the same as the Michigan State colors.
Mm.
I mean, not Michigan State,
Yeah, universe.
University of Michigan.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Now, so what it's telling you is that the recovery team for the blood rights is going to come from the right hand of Mother Gaia.
Mm.
So he come forth and proceed from the right hand of God is what they told us in the book.
Wow.
Right. And so they giving you all of the codes, but they're not telling you how to translate them. You got to figure it out. That's the
Exactly.
part that used to piss me off.
It could be,
Everybody always tell me, you smart, you'll figure it out. I ain't that goddamn smart. Anyway, so the Red Dawn is a reference to the red iron oxide dust cloud,
mm.
right? Russia, China, and North Korea is the boogeyman. They about thinking much about us is your dog is thinking about them.
Mm.
Only time they even concerned with what's going on in America is if it's going to directly affect them. They got their own people to oppress. They don't need our oppressions to come over there oppressing with them.
Mm.
And they don't need to be distracted from their oppressive regimes in order to be concerned about what this oppressive regime doing. But all of them been overthrown in the last 25 years. There's very few of us know that. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, they not even in charge no more. It's the
Fact.
People's Republic of China now.
Facts.
And a group of matriarchs in China and some of the surrounding smaller countries got together and wrote a whole new constitution, and they wrote a whole new government program, and they announced it publicly over here, and did none of us catch it. I had it posted on my the video was posted on my Facebook, but Zuckerberg and them took it down.
Oh yeah, they've been doing a lot of stuff with your social media. So like I
Yep.
said, that you can always use my channel as an outlet, because I was looking at some of your stuff and I was like, man, a lot of the stuff that they suppressing the information, you couldn't even go live on Instagram no more, right?
I can't go right now. I'm still in Instagram jail, but I'm back on live on Facebook. But I ain't even had nothing to talk about. This is the only thing I had left to talk about, was
Okay.
to get people to understand that if you understand the blood magic that's being used against you, it won't work. You got to understand how it works in order to nullify its effect. Your spiritual self will know how to alert you and defend you by being informed.
Mm.
Right. Once you realize that the blood magic is serving your worst interest, your spiritual self says, I don't want none of that. I'm going over here.
Right.
And that's why a lot of the children, we don't know why they be having tantrums. They want to get out to church when they children. They see it, but they don't know what they're looking at.
I was
But we
one of
get beat into going to church anyway.
you know. Y'all got if y'all got any questions, man, hit up the super chat questions go first. But if y'all got some questions, ask an elder, what's going on. Let me see.
My Facebook is Rod Hayes. I can't tell you what my profile is because I changed it a lot.
You got a gorilla. It's a gorilla in a space outfit, I think.
Not right now. Right now, it's a brother with some kids on his back swimming across the ocean.
Okay. Let me see. I ain't seen. It's your time to ask some questions. Okay, correction. Somebody just said correction. If voting was the solution, it would be saved. That's not a question. It's a statement.
It's a good statement, though.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Listen, they not concerned about the voter.
Mm-hmm.
They concerned about one of us at the grassroots that can organize voters.
Mm-hmm.
Those are natural born leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a minute. They don't care who you vote for because you ain't elected nan president, senator, or congressman in DC.
Facts.
Electoral college gonna do all of that, but they need to know who can organize the vote because they need to know who to buy off. And if they
Mm.
can't buy them off, they need to know who to kill off.
So somebody said, what are ways that we can use clean magic for this ritual magic? So what?
You got white candle magic, sage magic. You got defensive black magic. It's a
Mm,
lot of them you can do, but the knowledge of how them conjure work gives you a built-in defense system.
mm,
But for some of the ones who are aware of how to use the conjures, when they get the understanding of what took place, they know how to defend it. They know how to keep that energy out of their environment.
mm.
What harvest?
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Corn harvest, the turkey harvest, the pumpkin harvest. What harvest? Lioness den.
So we're it's the Sabbath day a ritual, and should any of us follow it?
That don't got nothing to do. Sabbath day has nothing to do with me. But people have to do what they feel in their heart is right. I don't have no special day of the week. It's 7 of them, and I'm number 7. So I count from 1 to 7, and I'm at home. So it don't matter to me about no Sabbath because I do the same thing on Sunday that I do on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday,
I heard that.
and then I do something on Tuesday.
And they asked, "Have you heard of the green sun?"
I ain't up on the green sun.
Yeah, I ain't heard of it.
Not in this solar system.
Right. That can only be applied to like ether and gamma radiation.
Well, you got to remember the love energy can, if you filled up, you will be seeing shades of green instead of shades of red. So it could come across as a green sun because that's the frequency, the love frequency. And
Mm.
when this mitochondrial blast hit us and turn our love light on, all I can say is, sister, sister, sister.
Yeah, that's when that Schumann resonance spike gonna go from 7.83 megahertz frequency to 13.13. That's that Queen Mother seat energy. That's that love
Mhm.
you saying. That's when
Yeah.
you're gonna reach that apex of consciousness. So
Yeah, nobody never noticed, Bidell, that all of those masculine gods use threats and intimidation, but the mother god just tell you to go experience life and learn how to love.
mm-hmm.
Like they don't see the difference in that. All
Right.
of those, all of the patriarchal deities, Yahweh, Allah, they always threatening to fuck you up. I'm gonna bust your head. I'm gonna take your kids. Look,
Yeah.
go read Job. They
Mm-hmm.
always threatening somebody. If I'm jealous, guy. Why are you jealous? That's a human emotion, and
Facts.
and not only is it a human emotion, it's also a learned behavior.
Yep.
It's contagious like chickenpox.
Yep.
If you got one in the house with you, one bad apple spoil the whole bunch.
So that
Yeah,
means,
jealousy not natural.
yeah, that's that's a form of dark psychology they use.
You know jealousy is a byproduct of the worship gene.
Mm. Are you talking about the vesicular monomon transporter 2 gene, that the VMAT2 gene that people have embedded in their neurotransmitters, and it
that
gives
makes them that makes them look for something greater than themselves, outside of themselves.
gives them a propensity to believe in certain stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, do you think that's acclimated to the fact that that ideology is connected to people who are NPCs, or do they have the rights of ascension to reverse that polarity by way of
The people that didn't have the right of ascension had to get a drop of blood from the organic originals. It was the same way that the Anunnaki had to surrender a drop of blood because of the genetic mistakes they made. The
right?
only way to correct the mistakes of is by putting it up and pairing it with a perfected genetic stock. That's why they say there's a God DNA. It's a
Mm-hmm.
perfected genetic stock. Everybody think that the 13 strand uh, DNA helix is better than the two. But all the two strand DNA helixes, the upgrades, all of the upgrades is now on two strands. So now you don't need a bulky 13 strand helix. It's
Mm.
the same way your car in a Cadillac, a 1955 Cadillac, is way bigger than the 2024 Cadillac.
Facts.
Right? You don't mess around and get no 70s Cadillac and pull up alongside one of these little tiny 2024 Cadillacs. Right? Because as things begin to be refined, right? That means that it's made smaller in size, less space, it's compartmentalized more information into a smaller data enclosure. By expanding the bandwidth of the smaller data enclosure, it can produce the same frequencies that you needed 13 strands in the early stages of genetic creation.
Mm.
The human DNA was a unique DNA,
Mm.
right? They don't ever tell you that they started out originally as a 24 strand. That's why you don't know that the 12 strand is only half of it. Which
Yeah.
when they was 24 strands, a 12 strand would have only been an RNA chain.
Mm.
But now, as time went on, you don't need all of that dead excess stuff. You want to make it more efficiency to defy entropy. Think about that.
Mm.
What's the remedy for entropy? Everything has to have equal input, equal output.
Balance.
Yeah. That's no entropy. That's no aging at that point. You done turned all of the deteriorating factors are now turned off because there's no entropy.
Mm.
This is what creates the time phenomenon. And it also is a contributing factor to them explaining to you that Kronos eats his children,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because he's eternal. They not. They reincarnate. So it looked like he keep eating them over and over and spitting them back out. But it's the same child. He just grew old through his levels, and then he left the avatar to reincarnate into a different avatar. When we used to do debates, I used to tell dudes I don't debate uh um reincarnation because I'm biased. I'm automatically biased to the subject. They said, "Well, why you say that?" I said, "Because I can remember too many past lives."
Mm. Matter of fact, since we on that, how do you tap into that? Because just based upon my own personal experiences, uh, it be some of the same dreams that I had like since I was younger. Like I have a dream that I got shot, and it'd be the same dream over and over. I got shot and I hide underneath the car, and I'm thinking like, is this something that you know? Is
Did
this a
you know
pattern?
what age you was in the dream?
No, I was an adult, but I had it. I had this a dream. Had this dream since I was like 5 years old.
Right. When you was 5 years old, did you see yourself as a 5 year old, and then when you became an adult, you have the dream you an adult?
No, it was just I was an adult the whole time. Like I was,
Okay.
I knew it when I was 5. I knew it was me as an adult, and then I just had the same dream.
The reason I asked that question is because reoccurring dreams is your guidepost to something to look for to either go into or to avoid
Hmm.
from a past life. It's a certain. That's why I asked you if you was a child and when you was dreaming of a child and adult, because then it would have been a message that you carried through your life. But since you was an adult when you was dreaming it as a child, that means that it's something that when you grow up, an event, a powerful event, is going to transpire. Right? The event don't necessarily have to be the gunshot, but your
Right.
subconscious memory is tied into your personal Akashic record, which goes back to your first spark.
Hmm.
So everything you ever experienced, your subconscious is now going to use this to educate you and to
Hmm.
give you, if you see it, you'll remember what you don't remember in your book of life for this life.
Hmm.
And then you'll know how to move. So at certain intervals, the dream might come up to make you make a different choice to avoid the eventuality of the dream manifestation.
Hmm.
Right. So you're telling yourself, remember this, whatever you do. But in the 3D, if you don't know what your book of life is, you won't know why you told yourself in the past life to use that to alert you.
Hmm. And you know what's crazy about that? Where the area where I got shot at, there's like a little hole right there, but it looks like a extra like small. It looks like a mole, but the area where I got shot at in the dream, that's where it's at.
Mm-hmm. This,
Weird.
this probably actually happened in the past life,
Yeah, that's
and
why I was
you using it in this life as a navigational tool, a divination instrument.
like,
So there's something that you're about to do that triggers the dream, and if you want the right outcome, then the dream served its purpose until you get to the next part where the dream come back again because you're about
mm,
to make a major decision.
mm,
The impact of the gunshot in the wound is means to be hit with extreme power. So you could be telling yourself you leveling up, or you should be telling yourself you finna meet somebody else that leveled up. Depend on how you perceive in the dream in the event. Because you probably didn't seen it from multiple angles during the course of this lifetime when you dream about it. But it's the same dream.
mm. Man,
So
that's
you was
deep.
telling yourself you was using it. So I always call those ancestors smart as hell because I was too dumb to leave me clues. I didn't start seeing my clues till I was old as hell.
Mm.
But I knew what was wrong. I knew what the problem was. But I didn't know like what I was supposed to do about it or none of that. But
You
as
know,
I got older, Then I started dropping me clues. And that's when I started realizing, hold up, something going on here.
Hmm? Hold on, let me see. There was another question that came up.
This one up there now, do we all come from the Olmecs, or is that relating to a small group of people?
I can interject on this as well. I know when you talking about Pangea way before the continental drift, a good majority of us we came from West Africa and we migrated to the Americas, but North and South Exum, when you study like the great majority of the Moorish doctrine and the paradigm, it tells you basically like North and South Exum is actually America. So Pangea all in one is, basically, um America essentially.
And Mexican, where Mexico come from,
Right.
it's a shortened version. But the Olmec people is the same people as the Inca and the Maya.
Facts.
They just different time frames, different family groups. When you got two chiefs that don't see eye to eye and they can't get along, Big Mama separate them. When she separate them, they go settle in a different part of the land, and she give them their boundaries. This is how you get a territory, right? Now, these people that's Olmecs is the same people as the Inca, the Maya, the Mississippians.
Facts.
They trace these people go all the way into the Amazon basin.
What are you talking
But
about?
we use the word chief because everybody familiar with them referring to our leaders as chief. And every motherfucker they dressed up to look like us and put feathers on, then they call chief too.
And how do practitioners of blood magic process heinous acts? Do they truly see it as like a charging battery, just energy and numb all too else?
They borderline psychopath, sociopath with
Mm,
just enough normal to function in society. The influence of the constant bloodletting, it numbs them to the victim. They will be have an emotional breakdown about their cat, but the
hmm,
kid that they sacrificing, it will trigger no emotion. They mama, their sister, or their brother might die, and they might have genuine emotional breakdown. But they victim won't trigger that.
mm,
This is why it's like border path, sociopath, psychopath,
mm,
right? People be using the term narcissist too freely. Narcissist is so rare that they create stories around them because that's how rare they are, right? And this is why they even have a myth called the narcissist. Now remember, all of their psychological scripts came from Greek mythology.
facts.
That means that they're enforced through something called pharmakia.
Magic.
And pharmakia is what? Sorcery
Hmm.
or pharmacy. Would you want to translate it or transliterate it? Right? So when they using those um, methods, they also narcotizing the person that they have do the actual bloodletting. And the blood is going to also narcotize them if they got any good.
Mm,
So they just become numb to the victim, but they functional everywhere else, or appears functional everywhere else. The ones that can't take it, because they fall into the bottom. Very few of them turn into crack addicts.
hmm,
Very few of them turn into heroin addicts. Most of them go into the bottle because alcohol
hmm.
is the spirit that's responsible to take care of the ones that did the dirt that they can't function with. That's his spiritual function, to console those who fall into the darkness. So
Mm.
what do? Smash them with some alcohol. And then you can use that because in that drunken state, they can't lie because the
Right.
processor turned off. And then you slap their ass on drink tramps and gradually get them drunk, asking harder questions as you go on.
Yep.
This is a cultural phenomenon that's only native to here.
Mm.
We didn't generally drink. And our elders knew that certain elders, what they call the alcohol chiefs, using modern linguistics,
Mm.
they are the drink champs.
Mm.
They the ones who sit around and drink and talk all day and go over the histories and correct the stories while they drinking, but they don't never get drunk. So when your child come in there lying and they
Lot.
sit him in front of the drink champs, he's gonna eventually get sloppy and tell the whole goddamn truth.
Yep.
And, and that's where you get that tagline, a drunk man speaks a sober mind. That comes from the original tribal drink. Them boys they reenacted our original culture on
Mm.
drink champs. You get them a little drunk, they can't hide their feelings. If they want to call you the N word, it's gonna come out.
Right.
But if their heart is pure, it can't come out when they drunk like that.
Mm.
If they don't feel that way, they gotta actually feel that way for it to come out. And that's why the politicians used to get drunk in secret because they
Mm.
couldn't say the stuff out loud for the people to hear it. And
Mm.
somebody invented something called a microphone and a recorder. And then they created these things called spies. And then they start understanding the leverage of blackmail. Then they start understanding the power of a blackball. You will never make another dollar in this town, buddy. You've been blackballed by the black hand,
Yep.
walking around like a black man all the time he called himself white.
Yep.
The story is in the riddles is in the rhymes came through from rapping and tapping. Rapping and tapping is the knockback to the knock from the spiritualists in the 1900s to pass the message through the musicians in the 2010s.
Mm-hmm.
So over the course of the development of rapping and tapping, you got from like 1830 to like 1930 was his hey. And hip hop started in the 1970s, and we in the 2020s now.
Right.
So we into the thick of recovering using the music, recovering the rapping and tapping stories that the spiritualists put on the wire back in the early 1900s, late 1800s. But if you don't know what you're listening for, you can't crack the code, right? So when you realize that it's about the union of divine masculine, divine feminine, now you look at all of these people different from a historical perspective, from an unbiased view. And this is why Noble Drew Ali say, listen to the European and make them tell you the truth. But half them niggas was passing.
Mm-hmm.
And we thinking they Europeans. And they
Right.
working for some Negroes that's darker than us called the Black Hand, the Black Brotherhood of Spain, the KKK,
Mm.
right? The Scottish Rite, the Skull and Bones Society of the pirates. And the pirates came to loot the land in search of the city of Cordoba. And Cordoba mean gold in Spanish, which tells us that the people looking for Cordoba had to be conquistadors, the conquering Tudor families,
Mm-hmm.
who was being in exile because they lost the war in Europe in the French Revolution, the Spanish Inquisition, and the Pope gave them the discovery right. The way to redeem all this is by capturing the foundational document. As we systematically unraveled a system by capturing the foundational documents, we liberating the people, but at the same time, the people got to be properly prepared to receive the redemption that's coming. They got to know that let them people fight for reparations because the system is already gone, so they just talking to themselves. There's nobody in DC to pay them nothing.
Mm-hmm.
America is dead. This is just a new sheriff in town. They called him Chief Pontiac. I'm not playing by none of their rules. Everything by tribal rules. And tribal rules is grandfathered in before their first constitution. Before Columbus ever sailed, the oral tradition of redeeming the land has been passed down from generation to generation. It became autonomic. Now all I have to do is read it, and the people begin to see what I'm saying. As we put it together, they brain put it together holographically.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call um, feeding them light codes to unlock the inner light. This is what Malachi was teaching us, right? So Malachi, High Priest Melchizedek, was teaching us about how to teach the light codes to the ones that come after us. But you can't teach it till you understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Once you understand it, and then you know how to flip they codes into the public domain for more people to perceive it and unlock it in their own mind just by what you show them. They don't have to believe you, but the higher self know the truth. So he gonna override your ego self when he get enough truth. Your ego self gonna be like, man, always bullying me. But your higher self gonna be telling your ego self, get your punk ass out the way, man. Don't you see you giving me what I need to wake up?
Right.
And by the time your higher self get done whooping your ego self pillar to post, I bet you have a purified ego, and your shadow work would have made it a little bit easier.
Self-realization. Self-realization.
I said, what is the correlation between the next election, Project 2025, and Supreme Court stating that administrative courts are non-constitutional? It's the fall of America.
Yeah, I did a
It's
whole video about Project
yeah.
2025.
Yeah, but the real Project 2025 is Mardi Gras coast to coast. Because we won, they lost. Now they butthurt. It's too bad. Just don't come to the family dinner with that BS because we just needed an excuse to cut your throat anyway for what you did to us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we ain't asking for permission. We don't need no excuses to exercise our sovereign right to do what's right. That's it. And everything has been recovered. The next election, I don't think is going to take place. Okay, when the last time y'all seen Joe Biden? The last time I seen him, he went from 6'2" to 6'8", and then he disappeared again.
Yeah.
Kamala about to drop out,
Why,
right?
why you think she dropped? Why is that?
Because she got too much Haktua in her blood. It's symbolism. First,
Right.
she want to, because Biden they're gonna have to announce that he dead or that they stepped down or something, and then she's gonna have to assume his responsibilities,
Right.
which is gonna interrupt her campaign capabilities. She's gonna have to say, I got to perform the functions of the presidency until November. I I ain't gonna be able to do both campaign and cover this base because too much stuff will fall through the cracks, which is true. You can't pull double duty like that. Now, I don't know if they're gonna split their clones into teams and run two this way and two that way and
Right.
try to cover both bases like that, but I don't see another election happening.
Mm.
It just doesn't seem it just don't seem prevalent.
So
It's like
so do you think it's gonna something is gonna what type of event do you think is gonna transpire before that, you know?
it's gonna be it looked like it's gonna be soft disclosure because if they was gonna give it to us in shock and awe, they would have dropped it already. So in the soft disclosure, they'll start showing you certain signs, and then they'll start tying them together, and then it'll come down to a public announcement by a person that's playing the role of the figurehead.
Mm-hmm.
He had to alert you to the fact that the military in charge. We've been in continuity of government since 2019. The government transition is final. We've drained the swamp. The cabal has failed and the earthborn has once again prevailed. You know, some old presidential speech writer gonna put their slant on it and try to sound eloquent.
Mm-hmm. So,
all
so
of
wild.
those, all of those celebrities that they have and come out performing, right? They dragging them out, right? So what that mean is they force them to do something that they don't want to do or lose their career. And they're using them to garner the attention of a certain demographic of viewer. They're
Mm-hmm.
not worried about the old people no more because they said they're gonna die soon anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't worried about the babies because they said they ain't old enough to pay attention to what's going on yet. So they gotta trap them between 16 and probably 34. If
Mm-hmm.
they can keep their man distracted with BS that long, they can influence them follow their narrative. It's just Pied Piper trick. Play
Mm.
the flute, watch them dance,
Yep.
entertain them, right? But just because they use it against us, believe me, some of them celebrities that don't want to be there, they gonna be flipping signs out into the public that's gonna let us know what's going on behind them. And some of us gonna think that they taking sides with those people when they telling it in the open what them people doing using the symbols of the industry,
Mm-hmm. And they
right?
being controlled. They being controlled because they're under the act of parliament. So if y'all do music or whatever, or if you're in the movies and stuff like that, when you sign in those contracts, cross out actor and artist and put creator. That'll give
Yeah,
you
you know the DNC been trying to hire content creators to promote Camel Toe Harris.
oh yeah.
You know that tell you right there who they trying to um, lure in to follow their scheme. Remember this: when you do a voters' rights registration, you sign the contract. You certifying that you're going to represent the interests of the person that you claim party you represent, or the vote that you cast, right? So you choosing sides. That means that you taking part in the fraud. Therefore, you a party to the fraud, and this is how they're gonna shut them down on reparation.
Mm-hmm.
You've been a party to the fraud the whole time. Even when we tried to let y'all go free, y'all fought to stay enslaved. Y'all marched to be enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
You fought for this to remain oppressed instead of accept your own and be yourself, right? Thus, the Antichrist is Judeo Christian mythology. It's
Mm-hmm.
not founded in anything outside a church doctrine of control, right? So when they tell you the Antichrist, they telling you that it's somebody that's going to be either before Christ, which means anti as in predate, or against, which is anti. But if they telling you they against Christ, he's probably going to be the one that's really supporting the Christ.
Exactly. So essentially your so-called antichrist would be the actual savior to so-called blacks.
Or the one to take all of the heat so that the
Mm-hmm.
Christ can move about unobstructed.
Mm-hmm. And even when you look at it from a surface level standpoint, I always had this perspective because I always thought maybe a woman would be the so-called, not the antichrist, but the messianic figure to
She
bring
is.
about,
It's the Black Madonna.
to bring about that.
It's the Black Madonna. Well, what that mean is we call her Big Mama. The Black Madonna seat is the sacerdotal seat.
Okay.